Hey everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here. I happen to be traveling today, so if some bomb-dropping news came out, that's why I'm not reporting on it. But in Microsoft news, we once again have to talk about Microsoft Recall. I did a video slash podcast slash radio segment on this about a week or so ago, and we now know that Recall is easily hackable, and they're just rolling out this privacy nightmare. So here's what's going on. There was a good write-up by Andy Greenberg of Wired that I'm cribbing from, and here's what's up. Security researchers have pointed out that even the one remaining security safeguard meant to protect the new recall feature from exploitation is very easy to defeat. Now, since recall was first announced, I mean, basically, we in the cybersecurity world have pointed out that, if, let's say, an attacker installs malicious software, they can gain a foothold into this and start seeing all of your images, all this kind of stuff. It's absolute nightmare. I literally laid that out in a video slash podcast slash radio segment. You can go to my YouTube channel or SoundCloud or whatever and find it. It's a nightmare. So the only barrier, it seems, that Microsoft really had to that high-resolution view of literally your entire life if you become a victim was that accessing Recall's data required administrative privileges on the user's machine. So if, for example, the attacker didn't have those privileges, it should prompt the attacker essentially to say, hey, log in the credentials or you can't access this information. So that meant essentially as well that malware installed would require a challenge for permissions in order to properly install itself and therefore would be blocked from access to Recall. But this past Wednesday, James Forshaw, who is a researcher with Google's Project Zero, he published an update on a blog post pointing out that he had found methods for accessing Recall data without administrator privileges, essentially stripping away that last bit of protection. No admin required, winky face, according to his post. Damn, Forshaw added on Mastodon, quote, I really thought the Recall database security would at least be, secure. Nope. Guess not. Now, Forshaw's blog post also described two different techniques to bypass the administrator privilege requirement, both of which exploit ways to defeat a basic security function in Windows known as access control lists. It's also known as UAC or user access control, that basically determine what elements of a computer require which privileges to essentially read and or alter. So one of Forshaw's methods exploited an exception in this control list, so he was able to temporarily impersonate a program on Windows machines called AIXhost.exe. It's a common one, and by virtue of that, it allowed him to get around that and access even the most restricted of databases. Now, another one is even easier, and this, interestingly enough, is a trick that we've used in the past when, the IT guy says, screw this place, and walks out and changes passwords on everything. But Forshaw pointed out that because the Recall data was stored on a machine and it's considered basically belonging to the user itself, an attacker with the same privileges as the user could simply rewrite access control on the target machine to grant themselves access to the full database. In other words, we can come in and then overwrite permissions on a folder. Essentially, even if we don't know the administrative password, we're able to get around that, and then everybody can access that folder again. And so what we're talking about here is simply Microsoft using their own security controls, if they will, and anybody with a little bit of experience on permissions and structure and file shares for Microsoft can essentially overwrite permissions. That's not good. Understand what Recall is. If it's taking low-level snapshots or high-res snapshots every 3 seconds, it's taking snapshots every time you're in your password manager, every time you write or read a sensitive document or email, and on and on and on. You're going places you shouldn't on the internet. Now you've got Recall for that. And most people aren't going to change or alter these settings. So this is a huge problem. So heads up to you if you're using this feature. Personally, it's a privacy nightmare. Second, if an attacker gets into your life, oh my God, imagine the ransom that they could essentially extort from a high-level CEO with this, all the way down to like grandma and grandpa using their home computer. So this is a huge problem. I'm not a fan of this at all. As you know, if you've seen my other one on Windows 11, et cetera, this is a huge problem. But I'll leave it at that. And if you're using Microsoft Recall, quite frankly, buyer beware. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please attempt to stay private. Thanks, everybody.